Welcome to my budget deck channel where I try to make decks as cheap and playable as possible. So if this is something you'd be interested in, then why not subscribe? So since the first video was very successful, I thought why not make 3 additional decks to play in the Legend Anthology Academy Festival. And this time I'm trying to go as cheap as possible or as interesting as possible. And this one is the cheaper side. I've run into something similar on the ladder, and I know this has been played on and off during these kind of festivals anyway, but I wanted to mention it because this is a bit of a different take on it. It has some cards in here that you maybe wouldn't be playing, but all for the sake of keeping it as cheap as possible. We have the gadget package. We have 3 green gadgets just because I felt like I needed one more card to have more access to the gadget engine in general, because a lot of the time you don't really draw into them, but I felt like 9 was maybe a tiny bit too much. You can change the ratios depending on your success. I've just done like 50 test hands and this worked out the best for me, but in the end you have to decide for yourself. Then we have red gadget at 2, yellow gadget at 2, tin goldfish to summon some stuff, silver gadget, gold gadget, infinitrack, anchor drill, all to summon monsters from your hand, so you can go into rank 4s. We have 1 Ascended Sage, just because you can summon this after the start of your stuff. Then we have 1 Pegasus, Twin Saber to equip to your Utopia, Ray, Leo, Ultimate, whatever cards, because that's quite nice. We have 1 Magikey for the grind game, and if you go second, that can be helpful. We have Monster Reborn in here just to go into more rank 4 plays. We have triple double summon in here because this card, as bad as it seems, first of all, is budget. Second of all, with the gadgets, you get lots of cards in your hand, and then you can use the effects of these kind of cards multiple times because they can summon the multiple things. And then if you have Infinitrack, Anchor Drill, you can not also go into a rank 4, you can also go into a rank 8. That makes a lot of sense from time to time. Then we have Heavy Forward, just to search Infinitrack Anchor Drill, basically. We have Enemy Controller in here, because going first and going second, this can be very nice, because sometimes you will end up with 3 monsters on board. There's not all that much you can do with it. Plus, it can help you OTK from time to time and get rid of your opponent's monsters. Plus, it is budget, so it's good going first, going second, budget. I am growing to this card in this festival. It has done some interesting plays for me so far. We have Forbidden Chalice in here, same reason. Good going first, good going second can help you a lot. 2 double or nothing. First of all, because I think the right ratio to play, sadly, annoyingly, is 2 Utopia double, and also because the Utopia double effect is very, very important for this deck, and if you can't get that effect off, because you need to search it with it, so if you draw into one of them, then half of your deck doesn't really function anymore, so there's a bit of an issue with this one, so I would rather run 2 of them and be safe than not. Same kind of goes for the Pegasus Twin Saber. This card is a monster negate on board, which can be very, very strong, but you could also run a second ZW card or a second one of this, just because you have activated from your deck, if I'm not mistaken, with Leo, so there is that. You can equip 1 monster from your deck or extra deck to this card as if it were equipped, so you have to, if you get it into your hand, then you have a bit of an issue because you can't equip it from your hand. You actually have to normal summon this card first, or special summon, and then you can equip it to your monster, so it's a bit annoying, but it is what it is. And just another Lost Wind. If you have any other like effect veilers and whatnot, then these will be taking that spot, but this can help you in the grind game, can help you beat over certain cards that you can't get rid of otherwise. And yeah, it's okay for the grind game, it's okay for going first, but this could be any other good stuff card that you have. For the extra deck, the 3 ultra rares I'm talking about is Utopia. We have Utopia, Ray, the Leo ultimate form, and we have Hope Harbinger. These 2 you get in the structure deck, so if you want to, you can go into the structure deck. At one point I will make a structure deck of Utopia deck profile as well, just buying 3, so that's a thing. But if you want to get these cards anyway, the Utopia deck isn't terrible anyway, then you can do that and get these 2 cards for free. Ooh, well, not for free, 500 gems, but it's probably a lot better than wasting your ultra rare points on that. And 1 good stuff ultra rare would be nice, or 1 good stuff rank 8 ultra rare. You can technically play like non-ultra rare rank 8s, but they are all kind of bad mostly, so this one is a good option because it saves you from blowout spell traps, and there are quite a few in this specific format. Then we have some link monsters, Geonator Transfer, so we have Porco Talker if you need to beat over things, and Raster Liger, just so you have some budget options, but obviously you can play the good link stuff as well. Then let's talk about the other cards. Heartland Draper to attack directly, Rhapsody to get rid of stuff in the graveyard. This card has decent attack stats, also can flip 1 card face down. Another direct attacker, but with more attack points, and in a machine deck that can become an handy. We have Malevolent Sins to get rid of stuff, and the attack stats are also not too bad. Then we have Exorcist Asophiel, We have one of the other Utopia cards. You can run basically any Utopia card that you want in here, but I just felt like keeping it cheap, and that is the one that does it. But there's plenty of other stuff in the structure deck. If you open this one anyway, then that doesn't matter too much, but this card has some interesting removal effect, so it's not too bad. Then obviously we have these two here. So this is the list that rank 4s, sometimes rank 8s, and doesn't do much else, but it is very cheap and it is playable, so there's that. And you can technically craft a version of this deck that is at least gold, platinum playable besides the event as well. If you put in some other good stuff cards, then it's not too bad having either of those cards anyway. Move on to the next one. And like with any other festival, we have S-Force in here, of course, because this deck slips the list every single time, and it never is oppressive, but it's always playable, and this one is no difference, because we have the new card, and with the new card, you basically only need 6 super rares and 1 ultra rare to play this deck. Like I said, again, it's not going to be the most competitive deck in the format, but it's definitely going to be playable. It's not going to cost you a whole lot, and you can easily play this deck on the ladder anyway, around like the gold platinum area, depending on how many good hand traps and how many good other cards that you have, power cards that you can use to win you the duel anyway. So this one, very, very interesting. We have a triple retroactive, the card that you do not need to craft. You get this card for free in the solo mode. If you're wanting to know a bit more about this specific deck, I have made a deck profile on my channel as well, which I will link in the description, so you can check that out. It's a tiny bit different because we have to substitute certain, well, consistency cards that are banned. Pot of P is not in here as well, so there's all of this, and some other cards like Dimensional Fissure are not part of this format as well, so we have to make do with that one, but the deck still functions the exact same. We have Rapashiomaru, a very, very interesting card. We do need it at the because it does all the stuff in this deck. 1 Aura Fist, triple Edge Razor because that's special summon stuff from your hand, triple Gravitino, double Platina, and 1 Lapswell, whatever you want to call this one. You can run 2 if you want to. This card isn't too bad, especially in a grindier format. We have Reinforcement of the Army to search this one. We have Bridgehead, just because it searches you all of your monsters. Ooh, very nice. We have Forbidden Chalice, could go on first, could go on second. We have Double Force Showdown. This card is very interesting. It's not that great, but in this setup it might as well work out. We have a Triple Torrential Tribute. That's the difference in here. This can keep your opponent off of crazy cards and can help you in the grind game because the deck is quite grindy, and you can establish a board more easy, and it doesn't overly matter sometimes if you nuke some of your boards, but it can be annoying. So yeah, some card that you might consider, but also might swap out for some other good stuff cards. We have a double Compulse, a double Reinforced Truth to search this one. We have double Lost Wind for the grind game, 1 Infinite Permanence. You kind of do need hand traps, and this is one of the free ones. And 1 Solemn Judgment, also one of the free cards because in the Master Pack bundle, but you can basically play any other card that you like. It's just sometimes helpful against powerful spell traps. 1 Specimen, you could run 2 if you want to for the grind game, but sometimes this card does basically nothing, but you can summon out things and get your combo back going. And Triple Chase, if you really just want to try out the deck, you can get away with playing double, but I feel like triple is a tiny bit better if you want to actually scrape some gems with this deck. We have for the extra deck lots of nonsense. None of them are really worth going into. You just have them because you technically can go into rank 4s with those 2, and technically you can go into rank 6s with those ones, so they're in here, but a lot of the time you don't really want to do this. Link monsters, because you can go into them, but the ones that really matter are usually Power Code Talker or Justify, because those are the ones that you can easily make, but you can still pop the effects from time to time and then decimate your opponent's board with Justify. So Justify is justifiably in here. You only need 1 ultra rare for this deck, and that is this one. You can play 2 or 3 if you want to, but usually you don't overly need to. Let's move on to the last deck, and that is going to be very, very, very interesting. And the last one, a deck that I've done multiple times on this channel, sometimes with more, sometimes with a bit of less enthusiasm, but this time it is for the Anthology Festival, and it is very decent. It can pull up some nice plays, it can pull up some, well, strong go first, strong go second turns, and yeah, it struggles a bit with consistency from here to there because you do lack certain cards. Terraforming is now not available anymore. We don't run the cards that searches your rituals from the deck because that's a super rare, and so on and so on and so on. But this list is fairly similar to the one that I promoted on my channel. I'll also put that link in the description. And let's jump through it. We run some of the normal monsters. We have one of every element, kind of, because that one is very, very helpful. We have Manju, we have the light monster in here, so this is a light monster, so this works as well. We have one of three of this one actually, because this is quite important. You can get away with running 2 of it, but that's mainly if you go for more searchers and you run the spell card, the preparation of rides. So this one is a bit different. One of this, because this can be quite nice on board, can be a nice monster negate. We have one Magikey in case we go second, and that's just a blowout card that can fairly simply win you the game. Monster Reborn, because you sent lots of stuff to the graveyard. Unexpected Die, this card you do not have to craft because you do get it for free. We have Mafty in here at 2, Magikey World at 3 to search things. Advanced Ritual Art bumped it up to 2 just for the fact of it's better for consistency, and if you have 2, that's not too bad as well. You can search them, and yeah, Pot of P wasn't in here anymore, so we have to make do with some other stuff. We have one High Ritual Art in here because this can also be helpful. We have one Piercing the Darkness. This card you get for free in the Dark Magician structure deck. If you plan on getting Dark Magicians anyway, then you might as well put this card in here. And Dark Magicians are a fairly decent deck even in the normal ladder, and you can be playing them in the festival. So if you want to, you can check out my first video for a list on that one, or if you just want to play it normally, there's also lists on my channel that you can check out for 3 Dark Magician structure decks and nothing else. We have Forbidden Chalice, and we have Magikey Battle, a card that you could cut if you want to be playing more disruptive things. If you have Effect Veilers, if you want to play Impermanences and things, then Battle is a card you can get rid of, but this card can help you against certain opponents' card effects and can keep your board alive, plus it's searchable, so I thought, why not? Not the best card, but it is what it is. We have Magikey Duo in here. I do like this card because if you draw into Magikey unlocking, you can search Duo, and Duo then can help you during your opponent's turn to ritual summon one Magikey ritual monster from your hand, because sometimes you have not had a chance to go into McMortar, but you still have searched it to your hand, but you couldn't summon it, and then this can help you to do so. Then we have a new inclusion in here because I recently found out this card existed. Didn't really look into it before, but this can be quite nice, especially for this festival. If you control the face-up monster that was ritual summoned using a normal monster, or was fusion, synchro, exist, or link summoned using a normal monster, you can target one card on the field, banish it. So it targets but it banishes, and it is not a hard once per turn, so you can get away with playing 3, and this is what the deck does. It tries to do nothing else but do exactly this, summon monsters with using normal monsters, so this card is definitely an inclusion in a budget variant. And we have triple Magikey locking just because this card does lots of stuff for the deck, and it stops power spell traps, from which there are more in this game than you would want to. Triple of the Fusion Beast, just to have it, doesn't really matter, you can bump it down to 1 or 2, not really meta defining. We have the Dragon at 1 just to, well, have some options to nuke your opponent's board. Another option to nuke your opponent's board is Scarlet Red Dragon Archfiends. It's just a generally like decent generic level 8 synchro, so if you don't have it, it doesn't hurt getting it, but also you can leave it out. It's not essential. Mainly you want to be going into this, but since you only play one and you have multiple turns a lot of the time, then having a second one that can potentially end you the game can be quite nice. And just another card, Enlightenment Paladin. If you want to be playing some rank 8 shenanigans, then this card can be coming in handy from time to time. We have double Evil Swarm Nightmare in here because we do have plenty of dark monsters that we could make this with. We have Malevolent Sin, we have one Gunkan ship Ikura class because we have the Su ship in here, so technically we can be drawing a card off of that effect, so it's not terrible. And yeah, it sometimes can pop a card on your opponent's field, I guess. We have one Viparto in here. This card isn't super important if you just want to try this deck out, and it's not very expensive at all. If you already have played some ritual decks, then you don't need many super rares whatsoever. Then you can cut this card as well and just try it out without it, and then see if you actually need this. It does some stuff, but it's not super important for the deck. We have Geonator Transverser, Power Code Talker, and Raster Lega here. That's the deck. It does do somewhat well. If you have a good starting hand, you can put up some impressive board. Your go second style isn't so great because you lack certain cards that make it be able to go second, but you still have some potential plays in here, and it can catch out your opponent if you just use advanced ritual art at the end of your plays when they thought it was done, and you just go for more ritual plays then, so that can be a nice thing as well. Let's move on, and this should be the end of the video because you can count to 3, and this was 3 decks, but of course I have put one extra shenanigans deck in here that you should not be playing, but I have played. I had some fun playing it, and if you have the cards, you might as well want to give it a try. Let me surprise you. Let's move it to the last deck. And last but not least, the little surprise again, another deck from the Academy, obviously. I've already done a Ancient Gear budget deck profile on my channel. The problem with it is that you kind of rely on the Infinitrack engine a bit more than in this one, but this one can grind a lot. This one can finish your opponent, not that well, I want to say somewhat well, because you do have certain combos in here. It's by no means a very competent deck, or by any means like a very good deck, but it does do some stuff, and what it does is quite interesting at least. So let's go over it. We have lots of different Ancient Gears, Wyvern being one of the better ones. Still the annoying clause that you cannot set cards after you activate this card's effect, so you cannot set this. Is a bit annoying. These days probably not necessary anymore. Back in the days probably kind of necessary. We have triple Ancient Gear Flame, because this one can add you anything to your hand basically, which is quite nice because it can add you Ancient Gear Fusion as well. We have Anchor Drill just to go into rank 4s, and technically you could run rank 8s in here if you wanted to as well. One Machina Process Storage, because this card can summon any Machina monster in your graveyard and special summon in defense. Sadly, it cannot activate its effects this turn, but that's fine. Sometimes that is okay. You could cut this card if you want to, but this is also some form of spell trap removal, I want to say. It is what it is. Then we have the whole Infinitrack Brutal Dozer combo. We have this card so we can shuffle some things back to our extra deck from time to time, or to our main deck, so we can keep doing this. We have one Gear Golem in here. The fact this card is a bit iffy from time to time, because you cannot actually summon it off of most cards' effects, because none of them say, oh, can be special summoned ignoring its summoning conditions, because this card cannot be special summoned. So this is very, very annoying. I think there's one way of getting this card out on the board, which is I think Howitzer, if I'm not mistaken. So Howitzer can get into this one, and if you then have the fusion, you can go into the Gear Giant during your opponent's turn, because you might end up on this one and your opponent can't get rid of it. So there is that. We have triple Metal Cruncher just to search this one, and also to have a target for Overdrive, because Overdrive gets stuff back to our extra deck as well, or to our main deck, and to draw us as a card, and also can summon out multiple things during opponent's turn, pop some things, can make it so you don't have any monsters on board, and so on and so on and so on, because sometimes they do negate the special summon effect and whatnot, but then you can't pop either. It's just like a niche little card in here that can do some stuff and triggers the effect of Metal Cruncher, so we have some more cards for the next turn. We have one Gear Turn in here. This can be searched by this one, so we can enable OTKs from time to time, or we can enable a certain place because we can summon Gear Wyvern off, so that's not too bad. Heavy Forward just to search the Infinitrack combos, whatever you need. Torrential Tribute to stay in the game, more grind stuff with Lost Wind, and we have Ancient Gear Reborn at 3, because you do want to draw into this card, because this card can be so annoying to deal with. Your opponent has to deal with you special summoning one monster from the graveyard every single turn, and potentially also getting effects off of it, because sometimes you can get this card back, then you can still fusion summon with cards in your hand. If you get this card back, you can add cards to your hand, and so on and so on and so on. And this card can also get you your fusion back. You can get Megaton Golem back, which 3,500 attack it would be then, is not too shabby. And we run 1 or 2 Crusher runs depending on what you want to. If a face-up Earth Machine monster you control is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can target one card on the field to destroy it. So this is a way to get out of certain situations, a way to use the whole grind potential even more. I would say try to run it at 2, but the space is pretty cramped. We try to go into a Howitzer as much as possible, because it's unaffected by card effects and it can special summon things constantly when it's destroyed, so that is not too bad either. And then we have some of this combo. Sadly, this is what makes the deck a bit annoyingly expensive, because this card then floats into this one, and this is a good card to have in rotation. We have Chaos Ancient Gear Giant. Sometimes you can go into this, not too many times, but there will be things. You can run Overload Fusion if you want to, and then we have some extra deck shenanigans. This can search you anything you want. For example, if you want a Ancient Gear Golem for the effect of this card, then that can be helpful, although it doesn't nothing if you only have one, so you technically need 2. But to fusion summon this one potentially, then you might want to add this to your hand. Usually what you're going for is certain other cards like Gearbox or any other machine monsters. We have Anger Knuckle in here just to have some link that you can go into. We don't run any level 10s where this can come back and discard stuff from your hand. We have one of the important one, Ancient Gear Ballista. This can search you multiple different things, and going second, this card can be quite nice. And this is why we mainly run Brutal Dozer, because this whole combo makes 2 Earth monsters and Earth Machine monsters, and I can go into this card then, and some other extra deck shenanigans that may or may not come up. This deck isn't very potent, it lacks a lot of different things, but it is somewhat budget, it is somewhat fun, and it can well, utilize a different kind of Ancient Gear playstyle that was somewhat intended by including Ancient Gear Reborn in their lineup rather than going for more OTK stuff. No idea, but if Konami didn't want there to be a Ancient Gear Control playstyle, they wouldn't have printed this cards, trust me, and they wouldn't have printed Howitzer either. So there's that. Make the best of it. It did net me some wins, but also if you draw a terrible hand, then, and which you will, trust me, then this deck does a bit less than the actual Ancient Gear variant would be doing. So there is that. Hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, but most importantly, I hope you have a nice day.